All right. Hey, Nadia, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much for the invite. Very happy to be here.
I was excited to chat with you because we typically talk to a lot of marketers on this channel. I really wanted to talk to somebody in sales who really has a lot of experience bootstrapping companies in the early stages. You got to spin something out of nothing, and it's pretty hard. You having done this at Lenlist before, and now you're doing it again at HeyReach, I think you'll have a lot of value to share with early stage sales VPs and founders who may be on the edge of thinking about hiring somebody. So thanks again for joining.
You're very welcome, and I love the topic itself. My background is actually in marketing, so I can combine marketing and sales experience here. Hopefully, it will be valuable for the audience here.
As I mentioned, you've been doing this for quite some time. You've racked up some pretty impressive results over the years, like scaling Lenlist from 1 million to over 10 million in just 2 years, which is remarkable. And now, as I mentioned, you're doing it again with HeyReach. I am curious, what keeps you interested in bootstrapping these early stage companies?
Yeah, I think actually like a lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues over the years, everybody has been inclined to go like after corporations, big fancy roles, big corporate jobs. I, for some reason, was never really a fan of those. I think for me, my sweet spot was always like these bootstrapped small companies, and they're trying to kind of make big things with limited number of resources, with small teams. I think for me, what drives me to those companies is actually like how the role looks like when you're in them, the level of creativity that you need to have, the level of resourcefulness. You become a builder, and even though you're a part of the team, you actually feel that the company is yours and you're building it and you're making big impact in them. So I think for me, like just kind of having this sense that I'm actually able to contribute quite a lot and actually make a big change to the company by making some maybe drastic, maybe brave moves. For me, that was the reason of always being inclined to work for these kind of companies and not really being a small piece of the puzzle when you're working in a big corporation. For me, I like the challenge, to be honest, and I like to build. I'm not much into just keeping things running and smooth and safe. I like the challenge and I like the risk. If you're working for a bootstrap company, there's so many challenges and it's like a high risk, high reward type of role. So that's kind of what got me there.
I've worked at both very large companies and then very small companies that became large companies. And I have to agree with you. There's a little bit more of an adrenaline rush at the smaller companies. And I think a lot of that is because it's like on you, right? Like you got to spin something out of nothing and really make stuff happen. There's a lot of rewards, as you mentioned, but there are also a lot of challenges. Yeah. And I'm curious to hear your perspective. What's one of the biggest challenges that you see firms who are in that bootstrapping mode? What do you see them challenge you with quite often?
Yeah, I think like one of the main things that kind of pop up from company to company that I go to is because you're really limited with resources, you're limited with the number of people that you have, obviously the budget you can spend on sales, on marketing, etc. You tend to think that you need to do big things fast to actually keep up with the competition. What happens is that you have like 10 ideas, you want to do everything, you're seeing like competition doing different stuff, so you want to be there and like keeping up with them. But the problem is then you don't focus. Like it's good to have like ideas and be creative, but if you don't choose one channel, one strategy, one approach, one initiative, you then tend to not stick to one and actually do it properly. So I see companies failing because of that, because like they would try out 10 different initiatives, they would never do them properly actually. And that's where like obviously they tend to sometimes also fail. I think it's great to be creative and be like trying to be unique in the ways that you're approaching things, but as long as you actually do it strategically and properly. And then obviously right now today, when I think about like scaling revenue teams, I think the challenge that both bootstrapped and big companies also face is that we are bombarded with information, like the number of tools that exist today, the number of techniques that exist, like the strategies. Then it's very hard to actually decide what works. So you combine them into one like proper strategy and funnel. And you can always feel like you're not keeping up. Like you need to do this, you need to do that. And then again, that lack of consistency and sticking to the process, even if you're bootstrapped, you need to have that. What is going to make it or break it for you? That's the challenge that we are facing today. Obviously, if you go on LinkedIn, thousands of people messaging, a new tool popping up, new AI tool that you should be using. If you're not using this, you're missing out. And there is this fear of missing out, I think, today, and that can mess up a bit also like your current process you have, and it's just kind of nail down the process you have and then make it better.
I totally agree. I think as we here at Lead Genesis talk to startups, We see that oftentimes that we say, listen, the number one thing that you can do is focus. Focus on your go-to-market strategy, focus on your messaging, who you want to go after, put an account-based marketing plan into place. And like you said, don't get distracted by all the shiny objects because there are a zillion of them out there. So spot on. I think even though you're in sales and in marketing, we both think alike.
It's at the end of the day, it's the same goal, which is revenue for the company. So whether it's marketing or sales, it all comes down to the same thing.
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of the early stage companies that come to us, they ask us like, okay, we've got the marketing in place. We really want to start scaling now and maybe hire our first sales VP or a BDR. And there's a lot of trepidation there. It's a salary and the return on investment is not guaranteed. You can hire good ones, you can hire bad ones. And I'm curious, you having done this many times before, what do you look for in a very first hire? And then are there certain things that you expect to see from them in their first 6 months to know, okay, we made a good decision, or maybe there is something that you see and you're like, that needs to be corrected?
Yeah, great question. I think it depends always on the type of company. So if we're talking about bootstrapped companies, you're going to be looking for a different kind of profile than like a corporate job where you're bringing like in, let's say, a VP of sales when you're already at, 100 million in revenue, different kind of talent that you're looking for. Companies where I was a part of, obviously, I think the key is people tend to be drawn to experience or like 10 years experience, very high level VPs of sales, for example, thinking that this seniority is going to bring them success, which in some cases that's going to happen. But I think what you really need in this person that comes in is insane drive and drive to actually prove themselves, I think, because this role, let's say founding sales kind of role is you wear multiple hats and this person needs to be very creative and needs to be very resourceful. I think resourcefulness is the number one skill, or I wouldn't even call it skill, but like a trait, that person that I'm looking for. And also then the mindset of getting things done. I think like when you're bootstrapped, you don't really have a lot of time to waste. You don't have time to plan out too many things, to create strategies, put on documentation, like you need to actually act and execute. So in the first 6 months, what I always look to see is not, okay, the mindset, how they're thinking, what they're building, playbooks, etc. I want to see them actually making initiatives and actually executing on them. So even if they failed, even if I had 10 failed experiments, if they've done them, for me, that's a very green flag. And then if I see like big playbooks, a lot of strategies in place, new tech stack, but then nothing has really been done, executed on, or no needle has been moved, for me, that's a bit of a warning sign because that just tells you like they're maybe overthinking too much and being too much of a perfectionist. And then, when you're in bootstrap, like you just need to execute and act, learn from those mistakes. I think it's like this lack of fear. I think it's a very positive trait, and it's something that's obviously like it's a psychological thing that you need to work on. It's not like it doesn't come easy. It doesn't come easy for me as well. But like this willingness to just try out and be bold a bit, I think it's very important.
Yeah, it's interesting because I just recently hired a head of sales, and I talked to so many folks, and there's some bright ones out there, and they talk to you. They know all the hoops that need to be jumped through. But for me, at the end of the day, it's like, do I sense that this person has the execution mentality? Are they going to pick up the phone? Are they going to do all the things that they need to do on a daily basis? How structured are they on their day? Do they time block? Do they set goals throughout the day? Those types of things indicate to me that they're an executor. I have in the past certainly hired some folks that weren't of that cloth and had to correct them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when you see that something needs to be corrected, do you have an approach on like how you coach them, mentor them, and hopefully turn it around?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always the first open communication between the relationship that you have built initially. Maybe not jumping to the conclusions itself. Like I work remotely, so obviously everything that I'm seeing with my teammates, maybe I'm not seeing it right. So like my first step would always be to have just an open communication of what's going on, highlight the opportunity for growth on their side, and then also seeing their feedback on that. So if there is a potential like reason that they haven't been doing something, I want to know why, and like actually here, maybe I'm actually the one that is in the wrong. And then obviously like if there is a potential thing that can be optimized or changed, guiding them to come to the conclusion how they can actually change that. So I want to put them in a driving seat in a way that they would be the one coming up with ideas, solutions, like solutions to the problems. And then also if that's lacking, and then throughout the conversation, I see that person is not really able to grasp the problem or able to come up with a solution to that problem during the call. For me, that's also a bit of a concern because that person needs to be problem solver in the first place. So I think it's like how they adapt to the feedback is very important as well. So I think for me, like it's always been like just open communication that's been helping, and then share my experience. Like I've had this specific case in the past, this is how I adapted to it. Have you thought about doing it in a similar way? Making them just feel that we are part of the team because we are. So it's never about like me versus them or testing them, but actually just like supporting them and then seeing, okay, can we do something better? Maybe there is a lack of support from the team side of things. Maybe it's a lack of onboarding that has been done, etc. So like I try to see the reason for the problem in the first place. Then obviously guiding them to kind of help out how to make that better. And then obviously after some time you just see if it's a fit or not. Sometimes it's just people don't fit into the vision of a company or like into the role itself. And typically bootstrap companies that quite fast, to be fair, because like it's not a lot of people in the company. You see the fit or misalignment, and that becomes clear, I think, for both me and that person in the role. So it's never that much of a difficult decision, I would say, but yeah, never a pleasant one, I would say.
Yeah. It's very refreshing to hear that you approach it with an open mind. Hey, maybe there's something I'm not doing right, or the onboarding wasn't correct, or the hemi circumstances that maybe you're not aware of that they're encountering that you need to go change the environment. So that's really great advice. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you've been able to scale some successful go-to-market teams over the years. I'm curious, having done that, are you observing a trend right now that you believe is going to persist with regards to being more efficient and being able to very effectively scale revenue moving forward?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question today. And to be fair, probably what I'm going to say as an answer today might change in 6 months. I think that's been the change that we've been seeing for the last year with all of the AI tools and like all of the things that you can actually automate today. There has been a big shift in a way that you're actually building out sales teams in the first place. Marketing, probably you can speak from your experience, but I see that also in marketing. But I think sales has been the one team that has been affected quite a lot by all of the new technologies. The reason for that, obviously, you have at one side like big salaries that are being spent on the sales teams, and on the other side, you have AI and all the technology that can, in some cases, actually replace, for example, SDRs. So we come to the point where we are today, like we need to decide where we want to keep this human touch and like support that human can provide, which I would never replace myself fully. But on this other side, like you do have AI that can actually do quite a good job. So how do you make this balance? And then I think right now where we're going as a like sales team is actually having go-to-market engineers. So people who are very skilled in tools like Clay, for example, Zapier, Make, all of the integrations, buying intent signals, tracking all of these things that are happening with the leads, creating these automated funnels, then also automating part of the outreach. It's insane what AI can do as for personalization today. And just time-wise, even though human will always be able to craft a better human personalized message, AI can do it faster. So will the SDR at the end of the day have enough time to actually do it for the lead? That's a question mark, even though they can do it better probably. So I think where we're moving is this GTM engineer running type of machine where salespeople actually come and at later stages where they're handling responses, having conversations with prospects. Obviously, when they hop on a call, having this human interaction, but this top of funnel and initial outreach is getting already like fully automated by AI. And let's see how long that runs. Like maybe buyers will, because at the end of the day, it's buyer's decision. You know, one day we might just get fed up with the AI automated messages. So we will need to be creative at that point. But so far what I'm seeing is like big focus on automation, especially on the top of funnel, and then limiting the number of human workforce. And I would say, unfortunately, as at the end of that sentence.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's all about very efficient revenue generation, right? So you have to blend the two. All of our customers really, they come to a lead genesis because they are trying to figure out like, how do we work with all these new tools and this go-to-market engineering? What are the right tools that we should select? More importantly, what is the right process and what is the right measurement that we have to put on top of that to make sure that we're continuously making the machine more efficient? In full disclosure, we're a brand new partner of HeyReach, so we're very excited about this. Have you share a little bit about what is HeyReach? Why did you start the company? And how should people be viewing it differently from some of the other players that are out there in this space?
Yeah, to be fair, I've actually been a customer of Reach way before I've joined the company in the first place. So I had my own agency for sales consulting. I had my clients that were running email outreach, LinkedIn outreach. And then back in the day, I think 3-4 years ago, email was really a predominant channel. Like when you think about outbound, you had like email was the number one channel, cold calling as well. And LinkedIn was a third channel that was popping up, but was not really actively used. Like I think everybody was saying like, yes, we're doing LinkedIn outreach, but nobody actually did it consistently. So HeyReach actually was started 2 years ago. I think I was one of the early customers back in the day. With the idea, okay, we have sales teams on the market. Like we have a lot of companies that are automating LinkedIn outreach for the sales teams, but there is this big piece of the pie, and let's call it like that are agencies. So think of all of the big sales agencies that are doing lead generation for their customers. And the big channel that both agencies and the sales team face is scaling LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, you still have limitations, how many messages you can send, how many connection requests you can send. And that's why maybe it was underused, not leveraged enough as a channel, because you would have this limitation. When in reality is that, yes, that those limitations still exist, but then what you can do is just take multiple LinkedIn profiles. So the same way that you're scaling email outreach with multiple email domains, you just use multiple LinkedIn accounts to actually do the outreach to reach this volume. And then obviously the challenge becomes is how do you do that? Like if I'm one person, should I be logging in and out of somebody's LinkedIn account? How do I track conversations in here and then a second inbox, etc.? Do I log in into my client's accounts, LinkedIn, and then automate that? That became very messy. So HeyReach initially was built as a platform to help agencies as a primary, let's call it like ICP, to basically scale an outreach. So from the campaign creation, such as having the manual steps, connection requests, messages, liking somebody's post, following somebody on LinkedIn, all these manual steps would be automated in a campaign. But then the kind of a thing that stood out was actually how to manage multiple accounts. So right now what HeyReach offers is basically you can connect as many accounts as you want. We have clients that have 500 LinkedIn accounts they're managing. And basically with one lead list, let's say that list is 10,000 people, you basically assign multiple LinkedIn accounts to that one list and one campaign, and it does like account rotation. So if you think about Smart Lead or Instant Lead that are doing those inbox rotation for email, is the same thing, but just for LinkedIn on our side. So we made it easy for people to scale LinkedIn outreach in the first place. And now obviously like, the company has evolved. So in 2 years that since we were formed or since the company was founded, we went from zero basically in revenue to now 4.5 million in ARR, bootstrapped again. So the company is growing really fast and like we're quite happy with the product development. We have some new things coming up. So yeah, it's been like quite a change. And I think where HeyReach really separates from, maybe not from the competition itself, but I think how we view the market and how we view the sales automation scene is that we don't think of HeyReach as a campaign tool, like a tool that you use for campaigns. It's basically a part of your orchestrated outbound. So like we actually are focused on integrating with other tools, because coming back to what we've been saying, today we have so many tools. You have intent data, you have like CRMs, you have different sources of AI solutions that are helping you with personalization, you have Clay, you have all of these tools on the market. And then using HeyReach as just a campaign tool just adds a bit more noise into the tech stack. For us, we don't want to be like this extension. We actually want to be a part of the orchestration of all the tools. So that's why our API is quite open, quite extensive. The things that you can do with like integrations with Zapier, with Make are quite extensive. So I think that's how we're looking to change the game. It's not really being just a campaign tool. It's just allowing you to actually do what you want and not living in the tool, but actually connecting everything that you have as a tech stack.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think orchestrating those sequences with multi-touch, multi-channel outreach makes a whole lot of sense, because you never really know where people are most comfortable receiving messages and interacting with folks. That's fantastic. You mentioned multiple accounts as a differentiator. I have a question for you on that. I know that LinkedIn can sometimes flag somebody if they see that they're logging in from multiple locations or maybe even using fake profiles. What are your thoughts on using those multiple profiles? What's the best practice to be compliant but also effective?
Yeah, there are actually two questions in that one question, so I will segment them into two segments, which is one, logging in from different locations. So actually when you connect your LinkedIn account to HeyReach, automatically what we'll do is we'll assign a static residential proxy, basically automatically detecting where you're logging in from. So if it's, for example, you right now are connecting your account from, I don't know, from Germany, you will be able to see Germany as a country. And even though I'm using your account to send outreach, the IP address and like the static residential proxy that will be assigned to your account will be Germany, even though I'm sending out and managing HeyReach from Serbia right now. So that's how we hide a bit from that location trigger. And then the second thing, which is very important because this is a very common mistake that I see across the board when with our customers, is it's not about scaling outreach on LinkedIn by creating endless fake accounts that have been existing for a week, that have less than 100 connections on LinkedIn, and out of nowhere they start sending 25 connection requests a day, 40 messages a day. If you're automating or doing things manually, that account will get banned after a week, I can guarantee. So there is, first of all, like a warm-up period that you can go through, which is starting slowly, just sending connection requests, building out a bit the brand. That takes some time. So my advice is never to actually go with creating fake accounts, but actually seeing who do you in your network. As an example, if you're a company of 200 people, sure you have people in the company who would be okay with landing you their LinkedIn accounts. There is a privacy setup in HeyReach that will allow you to track only conversations with leads and not really with your entire LinkedIn inbox. So it keeps the privacy of those people. They just serve as a separate domain. Same way that you would create a subdomain for somebody, you just take their LinkedIn account. You're the one having conversations with leads. Like you can't see their entire LinkedIn profile. So I think it's just about, like, okay, ask your friends, ask your family, ask your colleagues, get a bit more LinkedIn accounts. And there are vendors as well that can provide those LinkedIn accounts for you. So if you need to rent the account or buy an account that has been pre-built, that's also a better option than just creating a fake LinkedIn account out of nowhere.
Yeah. Makes sense. Let's see. LinkedIn, obviously, it's a very important B2B channel, right? It's becoming more and more important, almost like the only game in town, really. LinkedIn's been clamping down on some companies like Apollo and Seamless, not following their terms of use. And I'm curious, how do you see LinkedIn and their strategy potentially impacting HeyReach and other firms in the space?
Yeah, that's a good question. To be fair, I'm hoping it's not going to go in a direction where I'm losing my job one day. No, jokes, I don't think that's going to happen. So how I see the game, and it doesn't mean that I'm right, but it's what we've been seeing and what my kind of common sense tells me. LinkedIn doesn't want to work. The reason that they went after Apollo, the reason that they went after Seamless is that these are scraping tools that are scraping data. So LinkedIn as a business model basically owns data of all of the companies, all of the people who have signed up on LinkedIn. So Apollo is literally there stealing their business, let's call it like that. So you have Apollo, who basically has a big database of all of their customers, like all of the LinkedIn people who have signed up on LinkedIn. So as long as the tools like HeyReach, for example, we are not really in the business of scraping data. We're not data provider. We will not provide you like with URLs or email addresses or phone numbers or anything else. Like we're automating outreach. And so far, LinkedIn doesn't really care about that side of things. When you think about LinkedIn inbox, it's a mess. How the LinkedIn inbox is a feature and a product has been built, it's horrible. And then LinkedIn doesn't have those sequencing options, except if you're a LinkedIn recruiter, where you can have those options. But then LinkedIn roadmap-wise is not actually planning to go in that direction. I don't think we're in any position to actually be the ones that are getting in problem with LinkedIn. I think it's data scraping tools. And to be fair, right now, I think this is that recently became popular topic because we saw Apollo and Seamless, which are big companies, being shadow banned by LinkedIn. But this has been a game that we've been seeing for the last 2 years. Like for us, this hasn't, like this month that this happened, hasn't been anything special. Like we've been seeing this happening over the last 2 years, almost every month, but it's been happening with companies that are a bit smaller in size, I would say, and didn't have such big brands. So like right now, I think people are panicking because they are hearing it for the first time. For us, it's been just another month with LinkedIn and LinkedIn journey. It's always fun. Like they always come up with weird things that we need to help solve.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know for sure. I'm certainly not a strategist in LinkedIn, but I have to assume that they don't want LinkedIn to go the way of email, which is, you're just getting bombarded today with like zillions and zillions of messages. The scrapers are enabling that. And it's really more about really good personalization, high relevancy, and maybe a little bit of automation, which is where tools like yours come in. I'm curious, with regards to HeyReach, is there a particular feature or functionality on the roadmap that you're particularly excited about, either that you may want to show or that you may want to just talk about? What's coming down the pipe?
I think it's actually connected to what we talked about, which is the orchestration. I think one of the things that I personally am mostly excited about, there's tons of things on the roadmap, but one of the key ones is actually native Make integration. So what we're doing with Make is going to change the game, I believe. I don't have anything to share specifically, but I can share kind of what are possibilities. Let me just check if I can actually share my screen here. Well, I can. Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, it's the new integration that we have built out with Make. So it's all of the things that you can think of when it comes to multi-channel are right now going to be possible. So from different triggers, when, for example, if somebody accepts your connection request on LinkedIn, trigger a specific action via email, or log a reply. If you get a reply from a lead, log that into your CRM, update that in Clay, for example. So if you're using any enrichment tools, maybe you want to use this for additional personalization. So with Make and this native integration, it's gonna like endless possibilities of what you can do. And especially if you're using multiple tools for like email outreach, from data enrichment, from lead scoring, etc., like this is gonna, I think, really change the game. And we've been testing this out specifically for our own inbound workflow. So how we approach currently our outbound, it's not actually outbound. We have inbound-led outbound, I would say. So the people, for example, who are engaging with our LinkedIn posts in the last 2 months, we would be like looking who they are, matching them versus our ICP, then making sure they're not the customers, and then having huge waterfalls of like enrichment in Clay, and then having the outreach in so that whatever happens with Make, then we push some things in HubSpot, some things push to email campaigns, and it's just magic. From what I'm seeing, like it's magical what you could actually do. And a lot of things were not possible before this integration. Right now, I think this is going to be a really game changer. So for this, I'm very excited.
Very exciting. And is this available now, or is it going to be coming out soon?
It is. We haven't been promoting it yet very heavily, but it is available now, and then a big promotion is going to come up quite soon.
Fantastic. Particularly excited because we're a big Make shop. We also use Zapier. I assume that you could do a lot of these things in Zapier as well. You're just making it a little easier this way through Make.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I've been using both Zapier and Make. Like for me, they're great tools, especially because I've been in bootstrap startups. Like I didn't always have development engineering team behind me that can come up with any workflow that I imagine. Like I had to scrape things together. So for me, these were always like my favorite tools to leverage.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's great for marketers, right? Because the last thing we want to do is sit there and do code and spend crazy amount of time trying to hook all this stuff up.
Since I've joined HeyReach, I was expecting to talk only to sales teams and agencies. And more, I'm actually talking to marketing people because a lot of them are actually right now seeing LinkedIn as a channel for raising brand awareness, inviting to webinars, inviting to events, and not to mention like inbound campaigns. So right now, why would you only rely on the email as a channel when you can actually reach out to those warm leads via email? So it's marketing teams are right now trying to incorporate LinkedIn into their actually tech stack, and also HubSpot, for example, if they're using. So very interesting how this all is changing and how roles are changing in the companies as well.
Yeah. Speaking of talking with marketing folks, what's the best way that marketers or sales folks can get in touch with you?
I would say LinkedIn. For me, like I've been working quite a lot to build my LinkedIn brand over the years. It is a bit messy in my inbox currently, but it is the best way to reach me. My LinkedIn, you can find me with my first name and last name. Anytime that anybody has questions or just want to have a networking chat, I'm always open and always happy to kind of share some resources and help out any way that I can.
Terrific. And second to last question is, are you hiring right now?
So we're not hiring the sales team specifically. We are hiring in the engineering team, actually. If any of the folks here, I'm assuming you don't have a lot of developers listening to the podcast, but if any of the folks know actually some developers who have been with the LinkedIn automation tools, please let me know. I think this is who we're trying to find. It's a bit of a niche group of people, but let's see, maybe we get good talent.
Sure. And I assume it's global. You don't care where they're at.
Yeah, of course, for sure.
All right. Last question for you. And this is one that I consistently ask all of the podcast guests is, when you think of scaling B2B revenue and really doing it, what is one very important ingredient that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say alignment between sales and marketing, maybe an overused catchphrase, but for me, this has been the reason that that both back in the day and today, HeyReach have been able to bootstrap from zero in revenue to X millions in revenue, still without any funding. Funnily enough, both the same person that was the CMO at Lemley's back in the day and is the CMO at HeyReach today is my colleague. So like I've been chasing him from a company to company. So his name is Lukashin, who probably hates me for stalking him from a company to company. The reality of us like working very closely together over the years throughout different companies, we have this amazing working relationship. I think this helps us actually build proper alignment in between sales and marketing. Him and I are thinking quite alike. And I think most of my revenue was coming from him. And then most of his initiatives were actually successful because sales was also supporting it. So we always had the same goal, which is revenue and like company growth. And I think this alignment between sales and marketing has been key success for both of the companies that we kind of scaled successfully. So I think for me, if I was especially bootstrapping, I would not neglect neither sales or marketing. And I would actually try to make them a one team.
Yeah. That's fantastic advice. And boy, if you don't do it, you're in hot water. That's for sure. Thank you so much for spending the time, sharing your wisdom with all the listeners. Very excited, of course, since we're a partner now, we're very excited about seeing where HeyReach goes, especially now with this Make integration, and look forward to following your career. It sounds like you're on the same upward trajectory. Keep it up, and by all means, stay in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invite.
All right, Nadia. Talk soon.